Speaking of impact, welcome to the shortest episode of the pod ever.
Do you feel like there are gifts inside of you ready to burst out? Are you feeling unfulfilled and called to make a difference in a more meaningful way? Welcome to Speaking of Impact with your host, Bob DePasquale. Led by his own unique experiences and curiosity, Bob will inspire you to identify and utilize your gifts in ways that will make more of an impact on the world around you. And now, here's Bob.
I love to talk about generosity, and I've had the pleasure of speaking with hundreds of people about the subject and making a positive impact in the world. And the cool thing about speaking with all those people is you get a lot of ideas, a lot of knowledge, a lot of questions. And so when people say, hey Bob, what are your thoughts on the subject? It makes me realize my vision for the podcast maybe has changed a little bit. I'm still going to be speaking with interesting, driven, entrepreneurial type of people who want to make a positive impact in the world with their generosity. But I also think it's appropriate now that I start sharing some of my own thoughts every week as well. And so this will be the first episode, actually the second episode with just me, but the shortest one, because I just want to give you a few ideas and thoughts about where it's going to go. And as always, I want to hear your thoughts as well. So as always, hit me up at BDPA on the socials. But a couple things. Number one, something that I love to talk about all the time, and that's generosity as a mindset and not an event. Generosity is not one single thing that you do or anyone else does for you that might change your world. Now, I love talking about we may not change the world, but we may change the world for one person. And that could be a specific event, but that will not build a generous culture in your organization. Far too many organizations think that they can just check the box of philanthropy and generosity, and that it's a good branding move, and it probably is. In fact, I know it is in many, many cases that when people see an organization prepare and spend the time, send its people out to do great things in the world, they do see and realize the benefit from that, because people in the world see that, but it does not build an internal culture. And I had someone talk to me yesterday about a family and how important it is for a family to build its culture internally. Parents need to raise their own children, and there are influences from the outside. Those can be strong, but the people who spend the most time and those critical times with other people are the ones that are going to have the biggest influence. So if you're a leader in title or just in action in your organization, you can build a culture of generosity by your own actions and the things that you do. And that's how an internal culture is built. You may go on the volunteer trip that the company sends you on. You may go on a volunteer event for just a single day for a few hours, and you might find some camaraderie with yourself, the people in your organization, and the other people that you're putting in some sweat equity with. But are you being generous? Is there a culture of generosity in your own building, in the building of your organization? Whether that's a digital building these days in the work from home environment, or that's a brick and mortar office or place of work where things happen. It doesn't matter. Are you being generous in those areas? And what are some examples of being generous in the workplace? Because I get this question a lot too. Well, Bob, does that mean that that the boss is going to double the bonus every year, going to give twice as much as industry average? Are they going to raise my pay? Are they going to give me really nice gifts at Christmas? Maybe some time off? And all those are certainly part of a generous culture because it shows that the organization and the leaders want to be givers. So I will not discount the giving of financial resources and actual tangible gifts. Everyone loves that holiday white elephant Christmas party, right? Maybe not. But either way, those can be good. But I'm talking about relationship things, interactions between people. And one of the things I like to point to is collaboration. A generous workplace culture is extremely collaborative. And I don't just mean the boss assigned a project to two people and says, hey, you two, get it done. I mean the boss says, I think your skills and your skills would work really well together. So let me put them together so that we can collaborate and we can complement each other and be better as a group. Because we know the math isn't simple here. The math isn't 1 + 1 in those cases. It's that 1 and 1 somehow equaling 3 or more. And then maybe it's not even just two people. Maybe it's a big group project and big group effort. This is part of the reason why team building exercises tend to be effective, but they don't always last as long because it's not about the culture. And especially if the team building exercise is off-site, as I mentioned. So collaboration is a big thing. So anything that you can do to get people to collaborate. And don't forget, as a leader, you are part of that collaboration as well. You also need to make sure that you're collaborating with other people. You're not just barking out orders or giving responsibilities. Let me be clear about this one as well. Many people think that a good leader should not be bossing people around, and that's absolutely the case. But bossing people around doesn't just mean vocally. Doesn't mean walking around the office screaming at people. You can also be bossing people around by shooting out a calendar and emails every week that just tell people what to do, but there's no interaction, there's no relationship, there's no collaboration with their superior. And there's nothing wrong with superiors. There's nothing wrong with bosses per se. It's the relationship that they have. So the collaboration also includes the people who are on the higher levels. And I don't expect C-suite people in a very, very large organization to spend all day with the person in the mailroom. But I do expect them to work closely with the people that they do work with and the projects that are involved, the things that they're assigning, the things that they're thinking about and making decisions on. They should understand the people and the perspective of the people that are going to have to actually take on those challenges. If I'm giving a project to someone and I don't know what their perspective is, how can I expect them to be most effective? How can I expect them to be empowered, to feel capable of contributing to a larger cause? And how can I expect them to have agency over that project? So instead of just assigning projects, I think what you should do is I think you should brainstorm and speak with people about the best way to handle something. And that's a big part of collaboration. Other things that you can do, and that can be done in a workplace to help collaborative efforts and to help a generous culture, is to think about how people are incented to work and do their work. I know many organizations have sales contests for their sales staff, or they have different numbers and metrics that people need to hit, even if they're not financial like the sales staff. And those are fine because we want to have a vision and a mission for the organization. But if you feel that you have to take down the person in the next cubicle to be successful in your job, that's not a good feeling. Because even if you are successful, you're going to have to do it again the next year. And you also feel like, man, I'm taking down the people next to me. Who's there to help me? It's lonely in those silos. And then if you're not successful, because only one person can win, unless of course you tie, but listen, who likes ties here? If you lose, how does that make you feel? Maybe you've improved from the previous year if you have a positive mindset, if you're comparing yourself to your former self and not your fellow employees. But in most cases, it's not a good feeling to come in 5th in the sales contest. What does that do for you? It's not just the financial benefits that'll make you feel better. So my thought is, or my plea and encouragement and empowerment to businesses and organizations is, instead of creating incentives around single people, create incentives for the group. Have group goals. Have benefits, celebrations, whatever it might be. And they don't have to be big. Once again, it's not an event. It's not, we're all going to go on a cruise if the company gets to its goal. And you can do that, and I encourage you to have fun. Boy, I love cruising. But it's more about the simple things. Hey, did we do all the things that we're supposed to do as a team today? Let's acknowledge that. Say, you know what, that was really good. And look at the progress we made. And then they're more likely to do that again the next time. How important is that, to make sure that people are seeing the progress that they're making? And when they see it together, they're going to see it through. So that's another thing. And then one more thing that I'd like to mention is, I am all about acknowledging people's success publicly. But the way you do it is key as well. It's not just a trophy or a gift or a thing. It's the way you acknowledge it. And if you tell people you've done really good, and it shows in the numbers on a chart, on a leaderboard, does that really tell them? Or does that really tell the other people that they're working with that they've done well? Sure, but it doesn't tell them how. It doesn't tell them how they got there. So my suggestion for an improved way of celebrating and acknowledging people's success is, rather than waiting till the end of the year for the end of the year award ceremony, or rather than sending out the email at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter when the numbers are due, why not bring that up in the meeting that you have every week with your staff? And it doesn't have to be a long celebration. It just has to be, Hey team, I realized that Jane did really, really well last week. And what I noticed in my conversation with her, in my collaboration with her, these are some things that we noted. So two things are happening here. One, we are acknowledging and celebrating that person's success. So that's a powerful force. But what we're also doing is making them feel like they're contributing beyond just those numbers. They're also showing other people how to do something well. They're essentially collaborating because they're teaching the other people on your staff on how to do well, whether they know it or not, but you're acknowledging it and you're showing what they've done. So you don't also have to teach all these lessons. You can also help your staff help each other. And that is a generous, collaborative workplace culture. So as the podcast continues to grow, as we find more expertise in other areas of being generous and building workplace culture, I will also share insights of my own, because we know that there's an incredible amount of information out there on how to have a successful business. And I'm trying to take in as much of it as possible. And I love talking with organizations about their businesses. I also love writing the G2 newsletter. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about what we're doing, you can always check out the G2 newsletter. Written form, actionable insights in snippets of two. We have generosity and we have growth, and they certainly work together. We cover that in the newsletter. And if you're interested in me talking to your organization and helping your organization learn about this process, absolutely hit me up. You can go to the website or you can DM me at bdepa on the socials and Bob DePasquale at LinkedIn. I hope you all have a generous rest of your day. See ya.